Hello, Benji.
Hi, Avi.
How's it going?
Going great.
I'm glad to hear that it's going great. It's often going great with you, which is great. It makes me feel good that things are going great. It makes me feel great that things are going great.
I'm totally focused on the podcast, and I feel great about the guest that our listenership is about to meet.
Yes, we have. It's a real gem.
It's going to be a gem of a podcast. Yeah,
gem of a podcast.
Yeah. We have two people that you're about to meet.
Diamond in the rough. This podcast. This episode is like a diamond in the rough. Not that the other episodes were rough, but this is a diamond in the rough.
No rough. Everything's diamond.
There's a brilliance in this episode that really comes through.
I think so.
And there's so many facets to it as well.
Let me know when you're done.
It's a multifaceted episode.
Let me know when you're done.
Okay.
We have...
This episode is the hardest surface known to man. That's taking it too far, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, give it away, Benji. Who do we have?
We have father and son duo, Elliot and Dove Tannenbaum.
From the great Leo Schachter Diamonds.
And they were kind enough to come in to really teach us all about the world of diamonds. This is something that has fascinated me since I was a kid, I think. And when I was talking to Elliot about the idea of appearing on the podcast, he said, like, why would you ever want me? Like, it's so boring. Like, who cares about this?
It just shows that anything can be boring. Right?
I know. But to me, it's always been a bit of a mystery. I think
that's kind of our expertise, making things boring, one episode at a time. Well, of course, we're doing the opposite. For us, it was very interesting.
Yeah,
and and it's a world of mystery, of romance, of and a huge industry in Israel's history. We learn all about it on the episode.
Yeah, it's very Jewish, going way back. We learn all about diamonds, the way it was, the way it is, the challenges ahead. And also we talk a little bit about what it's like to be in a family business.
Yeah. They are father and son, and the business more widely is a family business across generations.
And very passionate about it.
They talk about how it started, something that they talked about how it started in Antwerp around the time of the Second World War, which reminded me of, there's someone in Ra'anana, a friend of ours, who used to travel to Antwerp a lot in another line of business, who would bring back pastries from this bakery in Antwerp. And it was always a treat. He would bring it back to the Kiddush Club. Not that there's a Kiddush Club officially. I would never admit that. And these like cheese danishes or whatever. And they're really good. And on the box and the bag, branded, I forgot the name of the bakery, it would say, it said like whatever bakery in Antwerp since 1921 or something. And I always thought that was a little bit of false advertising. She was like, since 1921 with a short break from 1939 to 1945, and then from 1946 on.
They should be more accurate.
Because I don't think they were selling kosher pastries in Antwerp during the Second World War.
Probably not. No, there's a camp my daughter went to where it was founded in 1944. This is a camp in America, a Jewish camp. And the camp song...
It's callous
The camp song starts in 1944. No happy camp song. No Jewish song that's happy should start with the worst year in memory ever. So anyway.
Yeah. That just shows you how effective camp is at giving the kids, an insulated experience. Look at the bright side.
I guess so.
Why are you so negative?
I don't know.
Anyway, let's get into the episode.
Let's do it.
These are a super interesting father and son team with who really give us the inside look into the diamond industry worldwide, from New York to Antwerp to London, Tel Aviv, India, Hong Kong. We span the globe on this episode.
Can't wait.
Without further ado, I say adieu.
Bye.
Back. Hey, Benji.
Hi, Avi.
How's it going?
Doing great.
You look great.
Thank you.
All right.
Excited about our guests. We have Elliot Tannenbaum and Dove Tannenbaum, the father and the son. Two people who are deep in the diamond industry. And we cannot wait to find out all about you, your lives, and everything about diamonds. Elliot.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a place called Muncie, New York.
Been there.
Yeah. Yeah, great place to grow up. A lot like Ra'anana.
Oh, yes, exactly.
In its day.
Muncie's different now, I imagine.
Was it Haredi?
I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time.
When you grew up, was it very...
Hardly at all.
Not
the same as Ra'anana. Is Ra'anana Haredi? We have some.
Yeah.
But it was a mixed community, a great place to grow up, very countrified. Bicycles took you everywhere, and great place to grow up.
Right.
What year were you born?
1952.
52.
Okay.
We'll do the math later.
And how did you get into the diamond industry?
I was very lucky. My father-in-law was in the diamond business.
Okay.
That's how diamond businesses, I guess, are passed down from generation to generation. Our company carries the slogan of 4 generations, 1 passion. Because actually I went into my father-in-law's business, and his father was in the business in Antwerp, the generation before. Yeah.
Now, the diamond industry at that point and going forward was a very Jewish industry. Like, how far does that go back? Like, that it's known as a Jewish industry?
I think it began. I think it was almost born a Jewish industry. The Oppenheimers. There are famous stories about the Oppenheimers and different people that were senior people in De Beers that are reportedly Jewish. In fact, one could say almost scientifically, by stories that have come out about their families and unfortunate things that have happened, like Tay-Sachs, which doesn't run and hide, that actually the founders must have been Jewish.
Okay, of De Beers.
Of De Beers.
Okay.
And then many of the people that were involved, I guess coincidentally, because they were not openly Jewish.
It's obvious that they're Jewish, because it's like a guy goes into a bar and like points at the thing, and the bartender says, "What do you want?" It's like, De Beers, De Beers. That's a Yiddish accent. It's obvious that they're Jewish.
If you would go into a jewelry store and say De Beers, that's something else.
Then you get...
Well, I guess the lore, as far as I understood it...
Good use of lore, Benji.
Thank you, and I understand very little, is that maybe diamonds were like a Jewish thing because it's something you could always carry. I don't... Maybe I made that up.
I think you're right. I think that's the history. The history was that it was the ultimate escape, which Jews traditionally needed. Something you could put in your pocket, take with you, and be able to transfer it into wealth wherever you wound up.
Right. Okay, so when you started, you talk a little bit about that world, right? It was based in the Diamond District, 47th Street?
Yeah. I finished university early.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to YU, and my father-in-law, to-be, asked me if I wanted to join him and go into the diamond business. Why, I don't know, but it was a good choice. And I found myself learning in the morning and going to our diamond polishing factory on 47th Street in the afternoon. And our polishing factory actually was made up of probably 40 or 50 Haredim sitting in a very dark room, not a very dark, well-lit room, but which wound up being dark. You have to understand that diamonds are made out of carbon, and when they get polished, they throw off black carbon dust. And so this room, which nobody ever bothered to clean, the walls and the ceiling and everything were coated in this black diamond.
So do Hasidim really wear white jackets and they just turn black because of the dust?
I wouldn't know.
That's
I
an
never saw
amazing
anything
story.
white in that factory.
That's an amazing
But
story.
I did learn Yiddish.
Dov, let's introduce you. Jump
Avi.
in here. You were born after 1952.
A little bit after 1952.
Where were you born?
Born in 77. And grew up in Renana. My parents made Aliyah in 83. So basically grew up in Renana. Back in the day where there were very few English speakers.
Ranana's changed a lot in your lifetime. Yeah.
It has. Yeah.
Okay, where'd you go to school? What schools
I
you go
went to Ariel and...
Know it well.
Yeah, and the Midrashia for high school. And
Where's that?
In Pardes Chana.
Uh-huh.
So went to Midrashia for high school, and then in Shavei Chavron Yeshiva, Army, and Bar Ilan.
Where were you in the Army?
In
Can you
Duvdevan.
talk about it? Duvdevan. Oh, I didn't know that.
You can learn something on a podcast.
You speak
That's
Arabic?
the point. I can't go into that right now.
Okay. Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So you enter the diamond industry, and like to start, do you learn all phases of the industry? Meaning how to polish, how to like. Did you do that?
Well, yeah. My friends are off to graduate school. You know, half of them were becoming doctors and the other half were becoming lawyers, and a few were becoming businessmen.
Right.
And so I decided that since they were dedicating the next 3 to 4 years of their life studying that I would spend my early days in the diamond business actually really trying to understand it rather than just going into the trading aspect of it. And so I spent the next 2 years actually in our diamond polishing factory learning the ins and outs.
Yeah.
And besides learning Yiddish, I learned quite a bit about diamonds that I really took with me all the way. And so it was really, there's a technical aspect to it, which turned out to be a very elementary part of what we did later on, much later on in our business, but we made a big contribution.
Can you explain, or one of you explain what it means that they're being polished on 47th Street? Where are they being mined, and how are they getting to New York? And
so the diamond mines are in Africa, mainly. Today they're also in Canada and Russia. They are mining companies. De Beers is the biggest one in Africa. There's a company called Alrosa, which mines in Russia, which is currently under sanctions. And then there are De Beers and other companies mine in Canada as well. Over the years, it's changed. It used to be that all the diamonds were amalgamated from wherever they were mined and brought to London. De Beers was the biggest.
What does amalgamated mean?
Collected, brought together and put in.
I know. I'm just asking for Benji.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's not an industry term. That's just a word.
So they were brought together and mixed together, and then De Beers was selling 85% of the world's diamonds. They were selling them out of London, and over the years that's changed a lot.
And the diamonds that they're selling are not yet polished.
So they're rough. Yeah, gems. They look like I guess like glass. After you find glass in the ocean or in water that's been there for a long time, so it's soft and like it's just a cloudy piece of glass,
like a broken Coke bottle.
Right.
Okay.
I guess first they're cut and then polished, right? Or am I wrong?
That's
first
part of the
they're
process.
mined.
Okay. First they're mined. Okay. And they're cut. I guess the decision of how to cut a rough stone, that takes real expertise, like what you want to make of this thing.
Right.
Okay.
But wait, let's not skip. So then it's sold in London.
So at the time it was sold in London. Today it's sold mainly, the Russian out of Russia and the African are out of Botswana, a city called Gaborone in Botswana. And then someone has to, you have to obviously look through the diamonds and mark them and decide how you want to cut them, how you want to polish them, cutting them, polishing.
Back in the day, again, like, could you decide which uncut gems you wanted to buy? Like which raw stones you wanted to buy, or were you just given them?
Well, you asked for certain things and you were given what they wanted to give you. Okay. And you
like any good card trick. You pick any card and then you get the one.
Yeah, well, it obviously worked because everyone kept on coming back.
Well, yeah.
So. Meaning there are only certain companies that were allowed to buy from De Beers? Is that how it worked? Like how many companies?
Well, it's varied over the years from 30, 40 to 100, and now it's somewhere around 80.
Okay, and that's the whole supply of rough diamonds coming into the market is the people who are allowed to buy from De Beers.
Again, while De Beers was the
monopoly.
Was a monopoly.
The best characterization that I ever heard, I heard this from my father-in-law when I asked him the question, how does one become a De Beers sight holder? He said the truth is that one director looks in one ear and the other director looks in the other ear, and if they see eye to eye, you're in.
Got it.
You go through a very strict financial review. You have to make sure they have to make sure that you have all the marketing that you need. They need customers that can afford to buy every single month and pay cash in advance for what they buy, and more so distribute and get paid.
Right.
And so they have to check your pipeline.
And why do they care if you can distribute and get paid? Because that means you'll be able to buy the next batch.
Exactly. It's a 10-time cycle every year, and it's cash in advance, divided into different categories. Let's say 10 different categories of sizes and colors and qualities, depending on what your market is. And they expect you to take every time they put it on the table.
And you said, so they're called site holders. They're the ones who have those contracts. Does every site holder get the same amount, meaning the same value?
Everyone gets the same value, but value meaning the proportion of money that, in proportion of the money that they're paying. De Beers determines a market value of that time period. And there's no discussion whether their valuation is right or wrong. What they put on the table for the price they put it on the table is the price you pay.
Okay. And well, let's say...
Is there any business in the world that's similar to that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of, but I don't think that it's as unusual as the world makes it out to be.
Okay.
It's a system that's regular, that its participants understand, and if it didn't provide the reward to both sides, then it wouldn't exist.
Right. Okay, but walk me through it. Meaning, now your father-in-law was a site holder before you came along. I mean,
right.
The company was. Okay.
Right.
So you're paying cash in advance. Someone goes to London to pick up the bag. When you open the bag, were there sometimes where you were very pleasantly surprised?
Was
like,
it a bag?
Wow, meaning they gave us a lot extra, and times when you're like, wait, they really kind of gypped me. You're not allowed to say that anymore, but they
Jewed you. They Jewed you.
Okay.
I would never say that.
We're Jews. We can say that.
Well, Dov, what, you've been through this, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely there are times where you would call it would be a swimmer in the box where in the allocated amount that you get, and depending on the size of the stones, the allocations are divided up by size.
Okay.
So in the larger sizes, every single stone is important, and in the medium sizes also. So sometimes what you would do there is you would look through the goods and you would assort them, a very basic assortment, but you would try to you'd do your assortment, and every so often you'd find a stone that might find a stone that is pinkish, or you find a stone that has a really high color or something like that,
Or a broken Coca-Cola bottle.
or that never happened, but other things have happened. And there are times where you're disappointed, where you think that after you go through the process of assorting them, that the value is a little bit less than you thought it would be. But by and large, it was the beers built a brand. So if you have a certain box, there were certain names for the allocations for the boxes.
It was a box, Benji, not a bag.
Okay,
no,
so,
actually,
right.
it was a bag, but they called it a box.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Fools.
It actually came in a bag.
A bag
They
that
put
came
it
in a box.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. As long as there's a bag in there, I'm happy. Yeah.
And you would, you could, the box could be sold on the market sight unseen, because people knew that if it was a sealed De Beers box, then that meant that it was worth its value, and people knew that was a commodity.
Did they care if you resold it rough, or they expected you to do what you were supposed to do?
They very much expected you to polish it, and in addition to what my father said about having a clientele that could be there month in, month out and buy the goods, there was an expectation, at least in theory, that the customers would add value to the pipeline. So De Beers actively looked for customers that could sell the diamonds at prices above whatever the market was, and try to add value to the pipeline to the customers.
And were they conducting research like on the consumer end of things? Probably that's easily available information. So they knew they could raise prices if the prices were going up to the end.
It's a very small world,
Yeah.
and it was easy for them to gauge how retail sales were going and how wholesalers were doing.
So
they adjusted the prices accordingly.
Right, so that limited your margins as a retailer. What would you call yourself? You're not only a retailer, or you're
No,
not.
we're not a
really-
retailer,
you're not
at all.
We're manufacturers. We're diamond polishers / manufacturers
Okay, right.
Who sell to retailers?
who sell to retailers.
Okay. No, I mean,
And
just,
to wholesalers.
Avi, I happen to know this. Like, there's certain things I know. Like, De Beers is a full-on monopoly. They could not travel to the U.S. I mean,
They were.
They were allowed to go to the U.S.?
No, they were full on monopoly.
Oh, they were. I mean, we're talking about the old days now.
Yeah.
Now it's different.
Well,
we'll get to that.
If you
But
know so much,
they're-
why don't we interview you about the diamond industry?
I'm just adding something I happen to know. Okay, just because I read things. Okay, so Elliot, you show up on 47th Street. You're learning the trade. Describe.
Learning in the morning, showing up in the afternoon.
Right.
right.
A lot of
Yeah.
Torah in there also.
Yeah.
Some. Describe that world a little bit. Is it all Jewish? Is it mostly Jewish? How are deals made?
Funny enough, at least the world that I saw, and this goes back to 1973, I would guess. The world that I saw was that it was mostly Haredi. It was, believe it or not, Cuban to a degree. There were diamond polishing factories at one time in Cuba, and some of those men came up to New York and worked in New York.
Were there any Cuban Hasidim?
No, there weren't.
Okay.
You're asking about Jewish Cubans are a possibility.
I guess it's not hard to guess who won the softball games, the Cubans or the Hasidim.
Exactly.
Okay.
There were, we had sitting next to me on a polishing bench was the great grandson of Rav Yosef Karo
Wow.
Oh, wow.
from Germany. Yeah.
Oh.
And there were all kinds.
Yeah.
All kinds. It was a very suitable work for people that didn't want to be in a mixed environment,
Mixed men and women.
mixed men and women. There was daven, the mincha stopped everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very closed world unto itself.
Right. And Dov, you saw this also. I mean, I'm interested also in the trust element, like meaning how are deals made, or were they made? We'll get to how they are made now, like in the diamond world.
So they were, by and large, on the diamond world, as I guess discussing what we would call loose diamonds, which is not jewelry. you would close a deal, and you still do by shaking a hand. There's no contract when you buy or sell diamonds at almost at any price. You afterwards you'll send an invoice or whatever, but when the deal is done, you shake hands, and then afterwards, the bookkeeper will send an invoice, and the other one will have a receipt. But all deals are done.
Is the diamond exchanged with the handshake or later?
Usually later.
You mean like where someone's holding the diamond and they transfer it to the other guy's hand?
No, you give a receipt.
What kind of a question is that?
When the diamond exchanges hands, that's then you give a receipt for it that you received it. That's not part of the trust.
How big of a transaction? Like what kind of value was transferred in that kind of a handshake transaction?
Everything.
Any amount you could dream of.
Yeah. And is it still like this thing where you say, what are the words you say?
Mazel and bracha.
Mazel and bracha.
Yeah, today people say mazal. And you could see Indians or Chinese or Japanese or Italians or Germans.
Is it true that Mazel and Bracha was said because those were the bookkeepers, the names of the bookkeepers, Mazel and Bracha?
That's where it came from.
I never heard that one, but okay.
I'm interested in
There's a lot here you will not have heard before. Okay.
Good to know you're poking around.
There are also these diamond exchanges. Like, what does that mean?
So a diamond exchange is like a safe place, both security-wise and you belong to a club. So let's say if there's a dispute, so the diamond industry in its various locations have an arbitration institute that if there's a disagreement, you'll never go as of the time of old. It's no longer that case, but you would never go to the courts. You would have it out in arbitration within the industry. So the New York club, the Diamond Dealer Club in New York or in LA or in Antwerp, Israel, India, and so on.
Okay.
And that's part of belonging to the diamond exchange. The other part is that you're carrying around or you have very valuable pieces of diamonds. Yeah. And you want to be in a safe environment where you could focus on the business and not look over your shoulder.
And you don't want Benji bugging you. Like you wanted to stopping by.
Benji used to go there. I heard.
You and me had sushi there once. Yes. You remember?
But these guys they're also carrying around diamonds. Like you see them in New York. I mean, I think what do they have them on their body? How does it work? Like
they carried wallets inside their jackets. They all wear
exactly where? Which side of the jacket?
Which pocket?
And it depends if you're a righty or a lefty.
Is there have you heard of major theft? Like it must be a place where you could get a chassid.
I haven't really heard of a major theft. I have witnessed actually quite an interesting occasion.
What?
A Hasidic fellow was walking down 47th Street with, I guess, something on him. And I guess someone pickpocketed him or stuck his hand where he shouldn't have stuck his hand. And immediately he shouted, Chapim.
Chapim.
And as soon as he shouted Chapim, all the men standing in front of all the various stores on 47th Street lifted up their heads and converged on the potential thief.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And if there's anything that I never want to be in my life, it would have been that man.
Okay.
There was no need to call the police.
Right.
He was descended upon by dozens of Hasidim on 47th Street.
Right.
Now, New York was the center of the manufacturing world at that point?
So Chapim. That's what I need to yell on 47th Street.
That's right.
Good luck doing that today.
I dare you.
If you're walking next to your mother-in-law, boom. Actually, she's my aunt.
Right.
Okay, forget it. Don't do that.
I used to go to,
and the
not often, but I went to 47th Street with your mom, who was in the jewelry business, right?
Yeah.
And she helped me pick out stuff for my wife.
So New York at that point, was it the center of the manufacturing world, like of diamonds?
Yeah, New York. Well, I guess the diamond polishing business, the diamond industry, began in Belgium, in Antwerp,
right,
and migrated to New York post World War II. And stayed in New York until Israel started becoming a market, I would say late 1970s, early 1980s.
Okay, and how did you migrate to here with the business? Like, how did all that happen?
You wanted me to go to Ariel school.
It's great education.
Wait, I have to catch my breath.
Okay.
It worked. You're on a podcast.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate.
Speaking English.
I've made it.
Right.
Yeah.
The industry goes through its ups and downs. As we're doing right now, we're going through a very serious decline. and which very much typifies the industry. It's a commodity, and for all the various reasons, economic reasons and fashion reasons and all kinds of things, cause demand for diamonds to go through peaks and valleys.
Okay.
And in the period of the late 1970s, when the world went through tremendous increase of interest rates and the price of gold soaring up to unknown levels and the price of diamonds going up to a 1-carat diamond sold for $60,000. A perfect 1-carat diamond.
Okay.
And then, of course, with every peak, there's a valley, and then that crashed. Interest rates crashed, and everything else followed. And the diamond industry went through an extremely difficult time. And simultaneously, the polishing part of the business was migrating to Israel.
Okay.
And so I saw a great opportunity to kind of fulfill a life dream. And fortunately, my wife and I were of one mind at that time, and no, that not about that time and that subject forever, actually.
Yeah.
But we were of one mind, and fortunately, I was able to start a business in 1981, and worked on it long distance for a couple of years, and then eventually 2 years later brought my family.
And Israel became a center of what part? Of what part of the industry?
So I think the industry in Israel goes back to even pre-World War II, 40s and 50s. But what became of Israel, at least what I've read and heard in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it became the global manufacturing center. Where you go today in the Diamond Exchange area in Ramat Gan, there still are many 3-4 story buildings that were diamond polishing. All of them were diamond polishing factories, and there were and then some. Today, some of them have been converted to towers.
Okay.
So you had the Diamond Exchange, which is where the trading would take place, and you had surrounding it a robust infrastructure of diamond polishing and diamond cutting and polishing.
So how would the diamonds get here physically? They would first go to Antwerp for the auction and then be flown to Israel to be polished?
Actually, the auction was in London.
In London.
Right.
And but they go to London from Africa?
They go to London,
and
you
then
go
fly
to look
back
at them
here.
in London, and then they're shipped back here.
And
You never ever bring them in your pocket.
right.
Okay.
Your company, did you shift all the polishing to here?
Yeah, we shifted all the polishing here. We had as I said, a sizable factory.
Did any Hasidim make Aliyah?
Not from us. Not Actually, it's very. You asked that, but I'll tell another version of it. We had someone that worked in our factory in New York, and an Israeli, and actually came back. Came back to Israel, and now became one of the senior members of the Diamond Exchange in Israel.
Right.
I don't know if he's vice president of the Diamond Exchange, and has been for many years.
Great success.
Were there any Israeli site holders?
Yeah.
Straight up Israeli. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come here, you build the business here, and eventually it migrates here, the bulk of the business?
Yeah, the bulk of the business migrated here. And it was a very interesting chemistry between many of the jewelers in America are Jewish as well. And so it was kind of a kick for them to be able to come to Israel and buy diamonds while they were here. And a number of the merchant people, even I can think of a number of people that owned large chain stores, and like the owners of a famous company called Service Merchandise in its day, was owned and built by a man called Raymond Zimmerman.
Okay.
And he came to Israel. And many. It was a really good opportunity for Jews to connect, and we had a unique opportunity because we were Americans living in Israel,
Right.
and so we were easily connected and sought after actually by a lot of the American jewelers that were coming, and I think that it helped bring a lot of business to the exchange at that time.
Let me ask you a little bit of trade secrets here. What's the markup?
I think that you're going to be really disappointed,
Okay.
because the markup is actually extremely small.
Really?
Extreme. The markup at our level, at the wholesale level, is extremely small. You make
Even though you're adding value by cutting
in classic Jewish way, you make it up in volume.
Right.
Okay.
But you guys are actually, it's a value. You're creating the diamond essentially, right?
You're investing money. You're creating
Polishing
the diamond, and that's why the De Beers system. Getting back to the core, that's why the De Beers system was so important.
Yeah.
The particularly successful companies were De Beers site holders. And they did so because there was a repetition that De Beers created because of this level of trust and the skill that they used in picking their site holders and the site holders had in distributing what they sold, that caused an increase in the value of what they added. Right. Now, the second tier, third tier diamanters, I think, had it much harder. Mm-hmm. And so you'd be disappointed at the markup.
But what's the markup? Okay, that's that markup, your markup. But I'm saying at the retail level, I go into Tiffany's or somewhere.
You don't go into Tiffany's.
I don't.
I wouldn't let you into Tiffany's.
It's actually a funny story because I was, when I got engaged, or sorry, a little bit after I got married, I was in a law firm.
You got engaged a little bit after you got married?
It's hard to explain.
Does your wife know?
Yeah. Different wife. No, it's all kosher. I just didn't say it right. But I used to sit next to a guy who was a friend of mine as a lawyer, and he told me, "Oh, I'm getting engaged." I said, "Oh, great! Like, you have a guy, right? You have a guy." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I went to Tiffany's. I was like, "Are you crazy?" Like,
you went to Tiffany's?
He was only half Jewish, the wrong half. But I was like, "You're Jewish enough. Like, let me take you down and get you a guy." He still went to Tiffany's. It didn't matter. But like at that level, what's the markup?
Very high.
I guess it depends on.
it depends on the retailer.
Yeah.
Every retailer is different.
So what's the range, let's say, from what you sell to them to what they sell?
I would guess that the typical range is anywhere from a 20% markup all the way up to 100% markup.
Yeah.
And I would say that the guy who bought his diamond ring in Tiffany probably enjoyed that purchase much more than you did.
I think that's true.
Benji.
And there's something to be said for that.
But Benji enjoyed that guy's purchase because Benji thought, I paid much less for my diamond.
How much you pay for that?
my brother-in-law, who's not in the industry, he's as far as from the diamond industry as you can get. He went to Tiffany to look with my sister-in-law, with soon-to-be sister-in-law. And he went in wearing a kippah, and he couldn't get anyone to service him.
That's not anti-Semitism.
He was a retail analyst at the time, and he eventually asked to speak to manager, and he said, "Listen, I cover you guys." He worked for J.P. Morgan at the time, and he said, "I cover you guys. You know what's with your customer service?" So he took him aside.
He's like a restaurant.
He says, "Listen,
critic.
I could see, that you could see you're Jewish. Tell me honestly." Are you going to buy a diamond? If you're going to buy a diamond, I'll get someone to service you. My guys work on commission because all you guys come in here and you'll have brothers-in-law, cousins, or whatever on 47th Street.
And you're all analysts at J.P. Morgan.
Right. So So
let me ask you another question when it comes to pricing. Like I in my very limited experience, I kept hearing the term the sheets. I think that was the term. That tells you or told you what the price is based on whatever it is, color, clarity, whatever those things are. And that was standard? Like, how does that work? And where do the sheets come in? What are the sheets?
There's an individual by the name of Martin Rappaport who many decades ago started, probably in the 70s.
Didn't he have an import-export business? Import-export Rappaport?
No, that's all Jews.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We all have that.
I thought that was him.
But Martin Rappaport started publishing a price sheet, which is like the Yitzhak Levy, not like it's very comparable.
For our American listeners.
It actually starts a step before that, if I can.
Yeah.
There's something in the trade called the GIA, the Gemological Institute of America. Mm-hmm. And they standardized grading for the industry, so that you could get a color and a clarity.
That sounds like a non-Jewish agency.
But we all know that.
It is very, very non-sectarian agency.
But Avi, we know this, meaning I think everyone who bought a diamond...
Yeah, the sheets.
No, forget the sheets, meaning you would get the certificate from there that would show you the grades and where the flaws were.
Independently graded diamond, which was done by a laboratory, and it was done. GIA is amongst the most reputable of laboratories.
At what stage would that happen?
When the diamond's finished being polished,
you do it, and then
the manufacturer does it
before you sell it,
and that gives it its highest value.
Got it.
Having their accreditation, it gives it the highest potential value the diamond could have.
Okay, so that's stage one. Okay.
And as that became uniform and acceptable amongst the more expensive diamonds that were polished, such that every diamond that was of higher grade had that certificate. That allowed that harmonization of everyone understood color and clarity.
Is harmonization another diamond industry term, like amalgamation?
You want to explain it to Benji?
Okay. I was thinking of uniformity or harmonization. Okay. But the fact that you were able to do something in a uniform way in the industry allowed for someone to put pricing on. And so
that's what he did.
And that's what he did. He gauged pricing on a weekly basis and put out a price sheet. Now, his sheet isn't the final price. It's a price plus X percent.
Okay.
And so diamonds were always traded as a discount from his sheet.
Oh, so you felt like you're getting a discount, right?
So the term today, or the terms used, is how much below are you going to buy that stone? So stone of a particular size, shape, color, and clarity would be traded at 5 below or 20 below or 50 below the wrap.
Right.
And that's
The wrap.
Okay. That's the wrap report.
Got it.
The wrap.
The sheet still, the wrap still exists?
Well, yeah, but we don't use sheets anymore.
Okay, got it. Okay.
We're digital.
It's on those magic phones.
Yeah, the screens.
Got it. Okay, so now, Dov, so you're entering the story at the height, I think, maybe the height of Israel's involvement in the diamond manufacturing. So did you take the same path of learning from the bottom up?
So when I was in high school, my vacations, or some of my vacations in high school, were spent in the factory in the diamond exchange area of Ramat Gan, and it all sounds very similar, except the color was the same, but the language is a lot more colorful in the diamond factories in Israel.
All right.
Which was a great place to spend your your vacation.
Maybe it's colorful in New York too, but you just don't speak Yiddish. Do you speak Yiddish?
I'm afraid not. No, but
there were words worse than chopper.
Oh yeah, well, they have some good words in Arabic also that are.
Yeah.
In any case, so I started polishing during certain vacations. Well, the industry at that point already, as described, was certainly very robust here in Israel, and the company was very established. And before I started working in the company, I went out and I became an accountant. I worked in an accounting firm actually for quite a few years, and then I came into the business on the financial side. At the time, the company needed someone to step in as a CFO, and I came into the company on the financial side. And after doing that for a couple of years, we brought in a professional, and then I went back to polishing and assorting diamonds, which is, if you're in the pipe.
You polish them with your hands, or you manage the polishers?
No, I polish them with my hands, as my father was describing before, and sitting in the factory. So to work your way up, in order to really understand the product that you're selling, you have to spend a lot of time in basic training, if you will, and that's what it was.
The decision when you're looking at the rough stone of, okay, I can see a princess cut here, around here. That's something not that the polisher makes. That's at a higher level, right?
Nice cut dropping.
Well, I shopped twice for a diamond because my wife lost the first one. So it went down the shower drain. I don't want to talk about it. It was a bad day. It was insured. But
we can get you a new one if you want, a bigger one, better. I'll talk to them.
Why do you think
at a discount?
Why do you think you're at a discount off the wrap? Yeah, now I know it's not a discount. I got it. That decision.
Why are you turning colors? Was there a mistake made a number of years ago?
Benji's like, I don't make money on the podcast, but I'm not supposed to lose money on the podcast.
Yeah. At what point do you make that decision? Meaning, are those decisions you guys make, or you have professionals who make those, like of how to cut the thing?
Like everything, the answer is both.
Okay.
There's a man who sits and plans the diamond. He studies the diamond. The diamonds are generally coated from nature. And they have some natural film to them. So we polish them off and create what we call windows. Okay. So the person who does the planning opens the stone so that it's perfectly visible and all imperfections can be seen, and they then go on to polishing.
The polishing happens after the planning.
The polishing happens after the planning. After the planning happens sawing. Diamonds are split literally with a diamond embedded saw, and then from the diamonds that come off the saw, they go to a polisher.
There must be so many screw ups. Meaning, I would imagine that you got this rough thing, and let's say it shatters. Like that, can that happen?
It's happened.
You feel bad.
You feel very bad.
You don't fire the guy,
it's
right?
worse than it going down the drain.
Of course you can fire
Actually,
the guy.
it happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Once.
Okay. How about
It never happens again.
what about losing a diamond? Does that happen sometimes?
Also happens.
Can it fly off the wheel? Like fly off?
Totally.
Yep, absolutely.
And you can't find it
I'm
in the
shaking
room?
my head.
No, I would not be good at this. I would be terrible. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so are you still both like involved in that level of it? Of, let's say, a really big, something that's really expensive.
Well, the process today is very different. Today, it's all high tech and machinery, and you have today machines that can look into a diamond and tell you. I mean, you feed in an algorithm, and you give the system what the value of any possible outcome could be, the color clarity. And machines today can look inside a diamond and determine what is the highest value.
Is that by laser or by optics?
Optics.
All of the above.
Yeah, and then use lasers to mark it. Yeah,
but is the actual polishing still the same technology? A man sitting at a wheel or whatever?
Mostly, but that too is already changing. You have automatic machines. A big part of the process from rough to polished, 60-70% of it already today can be done, and in certain stones is done by machine.
Okay.
Automatic machines.
So Israel's booming, right? At some point, things migrate away from here. What years would that be? Meaning,
probably around a little bit after the second Intifada, the years a little bit after 2000.
Early 2000.
India opened up as an important polishing center in the late 1980s.
Okay.
Mid-late 1980s. And it snowballed from there until now. And now I would say that 98 or 99% of all diamond polishing is done in India.
Wow.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 diamonds probably go through a city called
And what did that do
Surat.
to Israel? What did that do to the value of the diamond economy for Israel?
It lowered the prices of parking spots.
Okay, so because there's fewer workers needed, but what did it? So I guess fewer workers are getting paid in the
Fewer
industry.
everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There were 15,000, 20,000 people that worked in the diamond industry prior to in Israel, and many thousands of them were polishers. Today, I'd be surprised if there are 100 people polishing diamonds in Israel.
Mhm.
I don't think there's that.
Wow. Meaning the diamonds bought wherever it's shipped to India, and you're in close contact with them as to what they're cutting, how to cut, whatever they're doing to your diamonds.
Yeah.
Do you go there a lot to India?
Probably not as often as we should or as I should, but we're there fairly often.
Are they using the latest technologies that you're discussing?
So part of the reason or part of the story of how diamonds migrated out of Israel has to do with that also. I think in many ways it's all the good and bad in Israeli nature. We had Israeli high-tech companies developing new machinery, new techniques, new lasers to help with the process of polishing diamonds, of extracting the most value out of each piece of rough. And like any new technology, the first generation was maybe not better than doing it manually.
Right.
And the Indians, to their credit, were very quick.
I think they're called Native Americans.
No, they're called Indians because they're living in India.
Fine, you got me.
Yeah.
So the Indians were very quick and much to their credit, were very quick in adopting the new technology that was coming out. And the Israelis who were the people polishing the diamonds felt confident in what they've been doing for the past 20, 30, 40 years. And like any new technology, by the third or fourth generation, it really knocked it out.
That's fascinating. I mean, typically things move to India or China because of cost of labor, but that's not the real issue here.
Yeah, it was a double whammy. It was the fact that imagine that the cost of labor is a tenth or even less than what it was here, and also they were using new technology, new methods in doing it. That the final part of that is that the Indian government, through financing, was very supportive of the industry. Where Israel was going through a period where the government or the banks were a lot less supportive than they were in the past. Lo Alman Yisrael, and thankfully the high-tech industry and other industries in Israel
Getting more attention.
Were growing and taking prominence and booming to where, I guess, what the high-tech industry is today and other industries. So the diamond industry, which was, as Avi said before, brought in the majority of the foreign currency into the country, became less important, and therefore, I guess the banks and everyone else let it slip. So, so you had the technology, you had the labor, you had the financing, and they're very aggressive. They're very smart. They're very hardworking, very aggressive, and the industry de facto has moved to India.
Right. They probably say the Jews and the Israelis are very laid back and not aggressive and relaxed.
Well, doesn't everybody say that about Jews and Israelis?
It's a relaxing place to live.
Yeah.
Your market.
By the way, you're right. I just Googled it. They're called the Guardians now.
What, the Indians?
Yeah.
Called the Guardians? Is that like a movie?
No, that's the Cleveland Indians changed their name to the Cleveland Guardians.
I'm so far removed from baseball. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That makes me sad, Benji.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was never such a big fan. Your market. Do you guys ever deal with the big famous stones? Like, are you ever in that world at all for like the sultans, the super rich?
Benji's asking about that big diamond in the Muppet movie.
Oh, I thought he wanted to replace the one that went down the drain.
His whole life was about drains.
Farrah, it wasn't your fault.
Is that why you go out and like clear the drain in the hopes that in your driveway, in hopes the diamond will come with the torrents of water will come rolling down and you'll find it again?
No.
It's unlikely.
I did spend a lot of time looking at that drain and thinking about it for a while. But yeah,
It's a metaphor.
do you guys deal
Metaphor of your
with
life, the drain.
big stuff? Is that something you've ever been interested in?
Yeah, we've been interested in it, but it's been the same way that you have.
Right.
Maybe we even read the article a little bit quicker than you do.
Right.
But no, it hasn't been our métier. It's a specialized area, like everywhere is. Everyone finds his niche.
Right.
And our niche was more in the mass merchant, and that was not something that was.
Right.
But actually, as long as you've asked, that's what really drives the business. Because that's where the real interest is. That's where the headlines is, and that's where the romance is, and that's where the allure is. And no one would be going and buying their wives a 1/2 carat or a 1 carat diamond as an engagement ring if Elizabeth Taylor, right? Wasn't wearing that 60 carat diamond on her finger.
Right.
That's true. That's interesting. That's the dream.
Right.
That's what you imagine.
Yeah.
That's probably what my wife imagines she's wearing.
I wonder, like, if when you're in the industry, I've had this thought at least. You look at a diamond, you're like, wow, you get really into it, like this, that, whatever. You know, when you're buying it, and then you take a step back, you're like, it's just a piece of rock. Like, this is so stupid. Like, does that ever hit you guys? No.
It never hits.
It's not. First of all, I would have loved to be there. It sounds like you had a great experience.
Never hits them or anyone in the company. Next question.
No, this thing is worth so much. Like, it's just or is that just me? I don't know.
I think it's really almost the opposite. It's where you left off. This thing is worth so much. When you're sitting and polishing and taking a rough diamond in your fingers, and you realize that every minute piece is worth so much money that you learn to handle it with extreme attention and extreme care.
We, of course, know this because every second on this podcast is like that.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Are we breaking for sponsor now?
We're working on it.
Why do you think you're here? That's our payoff.
We take payment in French baked goods, French boulangerie and patisserie, and also that's what one of our previous guests got us. And who knows, whatever you guys think is appropriate.
Yeah, whatever you brought. Let's talk a second about supply and demand. Meaning, De Beers, we'll get to today, okay? But back then, right? They would I assume control it, meaning irrespective of how many diamonds they had sitting there, they would hold stuff back, or like how did that work? Or that's a mystery. I don't know.
No, not at all. At that time, De Beers probably sold more than 85 or 90% of the world's diamonds.
Right.
They had contracts with Russian diamonds, or unlike today, they distributed the Russian diamonds through their normal sales operation, and they amalgamated the various different mines in Africa and sold all of theirs, and they mixed them all together, and they literally controlled pricing,
right,
and the quantity of supply.
Now, to add to that, a very interesting aspect, they also developed marketing for demand for diamonds. They created the slogan, "The diamond is forever."
Yeah, right. They invested in like you see at De Beers. I saw a lot of De Beers advertising.
Right. We grew up in De Beers advertising. Yeah. And so the whole system. You have to click in to the various parts of the system that they created. Right. The site system fits right in.
There's something artificial about it, planned about it, but there's also something, as Benji said before, there's something special about a diamond, right? That's inherent, like with gold. There's something. It speaks to a part of our imagination. I think that's very old and deep. Maybe because it looks like fire. Maybe because it looks like channels light and creates color. But there's something like inherently.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
good business, guys.
You're getting sentimental on us right now.
I think it's true. I don't think it's just the advertising, but the advertising plays into it.
You're trying to compensate for the fact that I said diamonds are a big nothing to the 2 diamond.
Do you feel the same way? I see you when you buy it.
What do you
want? For me, I appreciate it.
I see you when you buy it. When you buy an S-Rogue, Benji, it's totally different. You're looking at every minute aspect. You have that monocle.
Of course. Okay, so
I haven't seen him with the monocle.
Benji looks good in a monocle.
sure he does.
I
But,
do.
Because it balances
would
his
you buy an
eye.
etrog with him?
I do. Sure, in B'nai Brak. Okay, so De Beers controls 85%. That's the old world. Things change. What changed? How?
De Beers, around 2000, a little bit after the year 2000, 2003 or 4, decided that they no longer, someone there, I guess, really wanted to visit America. They decided that they had antitrust filings against them, and they wanted to cease being a monopoly, and they stopped all their contracts with the various mining companies around the world. So Australia, Russia, mainly other some of the African mining companies, and they refocused on the mines that were theirs, or the mines that they had their own contracts with. So they had contract with government of Botswana and in South Africa, and Namibia, and Canada, and they refocused on that, and they went down from
Canada's not in Africa.
No, so
No, I'm just correcting you.
Okay.
He said Africa and Canada.
No.
Fine.
If my father's sticking up for me, then you know I said it correctly.
When I know something, I like to interject.
Right.
And they refocused on that. So they went down from 80 to 90% of the market to 30, 35% of the market.
And how did that impact you? You have your site holders with De Beers, and suddenly, I imagine no one's controlling supply anymore. Like, meaning if it's coming from everywhere, was there a glut on the market?
The free market system worked. The free market system just took off.
But did the price of diamonds go down?
No, they didn't go down at all.
Really?
In a way, they went up because there was competition, and
It caused cycles. The cycles became more extreme.
Okay.
In a good time, prices would go up even more, and at a bad time, they would be weaker.
But I'm trying to understand that. Take me through this. Meaning, De Beers controls 90% of the market. They decide how many diamonds every month are going into the world with you guys, site holders and others. They're giving you what they want to give you. And then suddenly the world opens up. You got, I don't know, Russia, other places, all deciding we're also selling diamonds here.
So
and De Beers allows them to.
No, but there's not more diamonds in the market. There's the same amount of diamonds are coming out of the ground. So De Beers would filter, or would kind of even out the flow to make sure that every month or every year it would meet demand. But when De Beers stopped selling Russian diamonds, there weren't all of a sudden more diamonds on the market.
I see.
It was just Russia selling Russian and De Beers selling De Beers.
So it's not that artificial. It's not like there's tons of diamonds being held back to keep prices high across the world.
No, but again, you have to take it that atmosphere that you're talking about. You have to take it in its true context, and that is that if you're selling a luxury item of love that is essentially the symbol of eternity between you and your proposed spouse.
Right.
Then you want
that
it
went
to
down
have,
the drain.
That's
yeah.
good.
You want it.
Yeah.
You want it to have the value that you paid for it, plus going forward. And so the company that's doing the mining, and the advertising, and the distribution puts it all together, and created that product that nobody really needs,
Right.
but which adds a lot to your life if it's done right.
Sure.
And so when tying that all together, it's not a silly story.
No,
it's actually
no.
quite ingenious.
It's ingenious. But what you're describing is that even when competition happened, markets opened up. It wasn't like there suddenly was more mining and more product.
Right.
It's just there were more entities
channels
selling those products. And how did that change your lives? Meaning, do you have to deal with everyone now, or you still just were dealing with De Beers?
We were still dealing directly with De Beers.
Okay.
And we, over time, started dealing with
Other people, other suppliers.
Alrosa. And we became site holders there as well.
That's the Russians? Or?
To the Russian goods up until January of 2022.
Okay.
And then you can't do business with them anymore because of sanctions.
Well, yeah, we stopped a little bit before that, but yeah, today you can't do business with.
So you guys ever go to the mines? Do you have any reason to go there?
Just as a tour.
It's interesting. Yeah. Oh, like a tourist.
Yeah.
Going down into a mine is interesting.
Coming out of it is better.
Right. All this stuff maybe it was in the 90s.
Depends what's in your pockets.
Now we're talking. Which pocket? I want to ask Dove, because Dove, I've over the years, I mean, you travel a lot, and you have for many years. You travel to the Far East a lot.
I used to, up until COVID.
Okay.
I was traveling a lot to the Far East. When I came into the company, I started dealing on the sales side in the company. Our company was fairly large, not fairly, was very large in what we did in the U.S., and we had just opened an office in Hong Kong, and that market was much smaller for us, but it was considered, at the time, it was a very big market for the diamond business.
What part of Hong Kong? Where's the office?
Central.
In Central. Lan Kwai Fong?
Right off of Lan Kwai Fong on Wellington Street.
All right. I'm not on Wellington Street. Now you got me.
Okay.
Okay. But Canada's not in Africa. Okay.
But Canada is not in Africa, and at the time, Hong Kong was not in China.
Good point.
So,
Quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had one office in Hong Kong that was up there. That we had just started, and I started traveling to Hong Kong, and then we opened an office in Shanghai. And then there is a diamond exchange in Shanghai. At the time, it was a bit smaller. Now it's its own building, and we opened up a couple offices there.
But this is for selling to wholesalers and retailers,
right?
Okay.
So our business was we would buy the diamonds, we would manufacture them. In other words, polish them, and then the distribution at the time was done a lot through Israel, because at the time any buyer for a retailer that wanted to buy diamonds, they would come to Israel. That was the main place. But
So buyer from around the world.
yeah, anyone from around the world that would be getting on an airplane, we'd get on an airplane and come to Israel. And but for those that didn't, we had offices in New York and in Hong Kong and then Shanghai that those would be the outlets to sell to the local retailers in each of those markets.
Hong Kong is, I mean, I've seen it's I guess luxury goods with the rise of China, I guess, and the wealth that generated. There's a lot of advertising there, and I think it's a good market for.
Yeah, Hong Kong was a magnificent market, because you were in a city, and it's a great city. It's very vibrant. There are the trains. It's very easy to get around, and you can go for a whole week, being in Hong Kong is like being in the United States of America. You would be able to do similar amounts of business in a city as you would be in other countries.
And what was it like for you as an Israeli, growing up in Israel, going to the Far East for the first time, going to Hong Kong? It's
well, Hong Kong has a history of Jews being there. There's a local community of the Sassoon and the Kaduri family that are there from a long time ago. I'm not exactly sure, a few hundred years. And so it wasn't exactly like landing somewhere where there was nothing. So there was kosher food. There's, of course, the regular, Sephardi and Chabad tension going on there. And I always recommend davening by one and eating by the other.
But you told me a story about the hotel that's near the Sephardi shul, or the Sephardi Jewish center there.
Yeah, where the doorman would wish you, make sure you bought your costumes of Purim, and he would say, good grief if it was Tisha B'Av. And,
good grief.
Yeah, he would. He was very in tune with the.
But you told me that one time when you checked in, he asked you if you want. It was a Friday, and if you want a wake up call for the next morning, because he knew you couldn't ask for it late that night. And then he asked you, what about the afternoon wake up call? And you're like, what? And he's for afternoon services.
So you had to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he knew about that.
They come get you.
Right. Okay, so you guys have your own factory now in India, right? I imagine. Okay, it's big. Like, how many people are sitting there?
We actually pre-COVID we partnered with we had our own factory there in India for many years, and we kind of realized that having a big factory and a lot of employees overseas might not be the smartest thing to do. And we partnered with a local company that we've known for many, many years. And so we have a factory now in Mumbai. There are a few hundred people there.
Right.
And they do a lot of the processing of the diamonds there.
Were you invited to this big Indian wedding that just happened? I read about.
I was invited to the one he made a few years ago. Actually.
Same guy.
We went there with a family.
What was that like?
A fairy tale. It's really a fairy tale.
Well, the smorgasbord was Bamba and Bisley.
Well, the evening started with Cirque du Soleil and ended with Maroon 5.
Not bad.
That was one evening, and there were others. They know how to have a good time.
You wore the clothing? I'm so ignorant.
Of course,
their clothing.
You wear the local garb.
They got you some kosher food, or
nice.
Very,
very.
The second wedding was Maroon 5, but they didn't have Beyonce or.
No, but I'm not holding on that.
Nice.
You'll excuse me.
That's not bad.
I'm very
This
proud.
is
I'm
this
very
guy's
proud of myself that I remember that it was Maroon 5.
This is this gentleman's children's weddings or his
This
second
is a
one?
gentleman's children's wedding. So now his youngest one I think got married, and the previous was.
But you guys had a falling out. You weren't invited, or
Well,
I'm kidding.
no,
on the other side.
Oh, it's the other side.
The other side.
I
Yeah,
see,
we
I see.
invited them from the other side. But,
Okay.
you know what it's like to be from the other side.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I feel like I'm always on the other side.
Yeah, you usually are.
Yeah.
Okay, so the world is changing a bit. My understanding is in terms of diamonds. What are the big trends that are shifting it?
Well, I think one that was mentioned, which is the advertising, which used to occur. De Beers and others would advertise generically, meaning they would just advertise diamonds, period, and that would have a knock-on effect to every jewelry retailer wherever they were advertising. Mainly
Oh, I
in the
never
US.
thought of that. That's true. De Beers was actually advertising for everyone.
Yeah.
They
Right.
would say a diamond is
De Be-
forever, not a De Beers diamond.
Well,
is
De
forever.
Beers at the
Yeah.
time,
You couldn't buy it.
you couldn't buy a De Beers diamond.
Right.
De Beers
Right.
wasn't selling diamonds to the consumer. De Beers sold diamonds to its site holders, but they were advertising. So
Right,
they
for
they
the
were
world.
creating demand at the end and selling at
Got it.
the top of the pipeline.
Okay.
And so they used to do that very heavily.
So less advertising.
So a lot less advertising than there used to be, and that has an effect on the market. And there's an emergence of lab-grown diamonds.
Okay,
Yeah,
talk
I wanted to ask about that.
talk about that.
Thank you for bringing that up.
What is that?
That's my smart question.
The
What's it
lab-grown-
been? Yeah, what's been the impact of lab-grown diamonds?
Well, it's hard to measure exactly what the impact has been, but
How do you make a lab-grown diamond?
you have you use a seed from an existing diamond, then you put it in a machine, which is like a really a refrigerator-sized microwave,
Okay.
for lack of a better
Okay.
analogy, and they grow it. It's there are chemicals,
Crystal structure, whatever gets
yeah.
grows.
Mhm.
Can you tell the difference under a microscope?
So it used to be when they first came out. Lab-grown diamonds were invented in the '60s, I think, by is it IBM? No, it was GE, right? By General Electric, and at the time,
Because they wanted to sell refrigerator-sized microwaves.
well, that's true.
Smart.
And they also made what they did with those diamonds. They were not gem quality. In other words, they were the same chemistry, same as physical diamonds, but as natural diamonds, excuse me. But they didn't look good. But they sold them to mining companies or
Right, because there's lots of industrial applications.
Exactly. There are a lot of industrial applications for diamonds, and for a few decades, that's what they did.
It's still the hardest surface, the hardest material
Yeah.
that we have, right?
Mhm.
It can cut anything,
Yeah.
including other diamonds.
So, and then in the late 2000 teens, whatever, 2015, 16, then the technology evolved enough that they started creating gem quality diamonds. And at the beginning, they were relatively expensive. So you get them at 10, 20, 30% discount compared to a natural diamond.
Okay.
And that price, like anything that is technology, it gets bigger, better, cheaper over time. It is impossible. At today's quality, it is impossible for a human to tell the difference. At the good qualities, of course, it's impossible to tell the difference in natural and a lab grown.
But
Possible
can-
for a human, but a Jewish woman can tell the difference.
Well, she always knows the difference.
But meaning what's the institute that you said that grades the diamonds?
GIA.
Can they tell the difference?
Yeah. So all diamonds are if you want to know the difference, the diamonds are sent to a laboratory, and today you could buy machines to keep in your office. I mean, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even make sense for a store necessarily to have all of them. But diamond traders and manufacturers and all of them have machines to detect lab grown. Detect if a diamond is natural or lab grown. There is a way a machine can tell the difference. There are machines out there that.
So is this a threat? Is this something that you're getting into? Is this like?
It's definitely a threat, and it's definitely opportunity. It's there. It's something that's in the market and that we have to deal with. I guess it's like cultured pearls were at the time for that industry, and it's definitely having a very large effect. You can today go into Walmart and for $400, maybe even less, buy a beautifully made 1 carat diamond that is comparable to anything that you could, in terms of its color and quality, to anything you could buy at a very high end retailer. So when the product is the same, that certainly provided a big opportunity for people that were growing the diamonds, and provides an opportunity for retailers that were selling lower quality diamonds and jewelry to sell much a better product or better looking product for a similar price, and it creates a big challenge for everyone else in the market. And you find you have retailers that became decided to be purists and say this is something that the quality might look the same, but the product is not the same at all, and therefore I'm not going to bring that into my store. I want my name, my store to stand for.
Yeah, the same thing could happen to other industries like meat. There's lab grown meat, and I guess that will.
I heard Beyond Meat just like filed yesterday, or
right. That was, but right. There's better ones I think coming on the pipeline. Right, so that's.
Well, I guess I'll state the obvious, but like I assume like they don't, when you're growing the diamond, right? It could come out close. It usually would come out close to perfect. Meaning you don't have to deal with the flaws that nature. Is that right?
By and large, that's correct.
Okay.
I mean, there's a secret sauce, and every one of the growers have their own secret sauce, and each one of them.
But it's the imperfections that make it beautiful.
Yeah, it started with where the diamonds were not as good as the best natural diamonds. But now, of course, because it's human made, the process has improved all the time.
Right. Well, you went through I remember when like CZ's, cubic zirconia, was like, oh, why would I buy a diamond? But it didn't look anything like a diamond. This is something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is physically chemistry identical.
I wanted to ask about the new cut of diamond that you guys introduced, right? You want to talk about that?
So we in the late 90s, we were competing with other companies on programs for the large retailers. So you had retailers that had 100 doors or 1,000 doors, and they bought in mass. So they bought collections. And
what's a door?
A store. Sorry.
So asking again for Benji.
Yeah.
I know that.
It could lead anywhere. Okay, store. Got it.
So we were selling in jewelry collections at the time, and the competition became very fierce. And at the time, diamonds were not branded at all. So you had a Tiffany diamond, but that's a Tiffany branding. That's not the diamond branding. And you had a Cartier. You had the higher end brands. But at the time, my father and his partners developed a special cut, which was the first diamond to ever be certified for superior brilliance. So what they did was they took a regular diamond and they cut it a little bit differently with different facets on the stone, and that produced more brilliance than a regular stone. So after all, the reason people buy a diamond is because the way it shines and the brilliance that comes out of a diamond. So we came up with a methodology to cut diamonds better in a better way that extracted more brilliance from the stone, and we were able to prove it. We had a machine that measured the brilliance, and that was called, and still is called, the Leo diamond. We're actually celebrating 25 years. It was launched in the Christmas season of 1999. And
why did you name it the Leo diamond?
Well, my grandfather is Leo Schachter, so as would be appropriate for him, he for the first branded stone of the company to carry his name.
Right. It's good. It's not like Yankee or something. It could have been anything. You stuck with it.
Well, we didn't call it. We didn't call it.
Sorry to the Yankees out there. Right.
Yeah.
And what's the outlook going forward? Meaning, is it positive? Like, how do you feel about the industry going forward?
So, as my father said before, the industry is going through a very challenging, hard time in these days. The first 2 years of COVID were actually really good for the industry, probably because everybody was stuck at home with their wives and friends, and they had to make sure that they get through that period. And they couldn't spend it on anything else because no one was going anywhere or doing anything. And that was we had a nice boom of a year or two. But in the past, and during that period, that's when lab-grown diamonds really came into the market, became prevalent in the market. And today, the industry is going through a very, very hard time. The industry in Israel is very...
Because of lab-grown?
Because of lab-grown, general demand is down. The market in the Far East, you mentioned the Far East before, the market in the Far East is very, very quiet.
I guess inflation also is normally...
inflation, everything. I mean... When people have more money in their pockets, they spend more money on luxury items.
And less advertising, you mentioned also.
And much less advertising than there was in the past. They're talking now about doing a little bit more advertising, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what used to happen.
Yeah.
Today, the industry is facing a lot of challenges. What you're seeing is that people that I'm talking now mainly about the U.S. market, which is the main market for the whole world right now, and are certainly our main market. You have retailers that are really smart and know how to use social media and smart advertising, and some retailers are selling both lab grown and natural, and some are selling just the natural.
Okay.
We, as a company, since that, what we mentioned before, the special cut that we mentioned before, the Leo Diamond, we have slowly but surely drifted in the direction of branding. And we have come up with some very interesting methods of cutting. We have a diamond that we use nanotechnology actually we polish on tens of thousands of nano facets onto a stone, and that causes the stone to have a prismatic effect.
Wow.
Prismatic.
So instead of a white light, which is usually what comes out of a diamond, you have an array of colors that the diamond displays, and that's
So it's
a lot of people like that.
Driving you to look for ways to add value and uniqueness to.
Yeah. So
to
today, that I think what you very much summed it up. That the players, the companies that are doing well today are companies that are able to really truly add value to the consumer. So some people do it by unique design of jewelry and advertising a jewelry line, or some people do it by cutting stones perfectly made and in a certain way that the retailers appreciate it. You have a lot of pipeline integrity today, which is very important. People don't want to buy diamonds that were made unethically or extracted unethically. So that has become a very important part of the industry. And then what we do is we have developed expertise in creating more brilliant stones and more brilliant diamonds. And
can you create more brilliant podcast partners?
Absolutely. Only if you
Talk to you about that afterwards.
Modern technology. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about. There's an old adage, not to go into business with your family. At least that's what they told me. But
tread lightly.
Yeah. Right. How does it work? How does it work? Meaning to see your son in it, to have been the son-in-law of someone in it. Meaning, is it smooth sailing? Is it? I guess that's a difficult question.
It depends on the personalities.
Yeah.
There are times when there are tremendous advantages, and there are times when there are challenges, like anything else. And I think the overall benefits are great because you having a passion that you can really share, a passion at work that you can really share with someone else who cares just as much is a very rare thing.
Yeah.
And that part is really, really fun. We're both very strong-willed, though, and we're both very driven at what we do. And, of course, that causes clashes. And as long as you know it's for l'shem shamayim, as long as you know it's for a purpose, you don't always remember that at the moment, but you wake up the next morning and you remember.
And Dov, what would you say?
I think it's extraordinary. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to see. For me, to see your grandfather and be passionate about something, and your father be passionate about something. When I was a child, I have this memory where I think my father was a grocer. Was always talking about the carrots and the carrots. I imagine his office with these industrial size refrigerators full of orange carrots. But that's the lingo you hear in the background. 6 days a week. And to be able to be part of it and continue that is very special.
But there are the awkward moments when you break the big diamond, when there must be some tension.
Well, I never broke a big diamond. That I'm willing to admit for. I can't prove it. Didn't see it.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Right. You just lost a few. It's no big deal. Right.
Was it hard when your dad would bring work home? When he would bring on the seventh day on Shabbos, when he would bring home gefilte fish with the carrots on it?
Well, if you bought it on Friday, then it was okay.
It's like I was in Germany once, and there's these brewing factories, brewing universities, to become a Braumeister.
Yep.
And that's the degree that they get outside of Munich. And there's a story told where one guy, they finally finished the course, they're finished with finals, and they're having a party, and the guy knocks on the door in the dormitory, and they open the door, and he's carrying a six-pack, and they're like, "Heinrich, you're always working. Can't you loosen up?"
Yeah. No, it sounds like a gift, actually, meaning that you get to spend so much time together doing something that you both love. Something, most kids, their dad leaves, and then he comes home at night and he's tired, and that's kind of it. and you get to see each other.
Well, neither of us went in the morning and came back at night. We went in the morning and ended up in a different country by the end of the day.
Okay.
And came back for Shabbos.
But the metaphor still holds.
Whatever. Let me think what I do. Well, it's been amazing having both of you. It's been really a gift to us to see both of you so passionate about what you do and having the relationship they do. And I learned a ton.
Yeah.
It's been really illuminating for me.
Illuminating.
Thank you.
Nice.
What other
Brilliant.
lingo?
That's good. That's a good.
Give me some lingo from the biz. What do you got?
Brilliance, facets.
Not you, them.
That's all I got. Yeah, thank you very much for coming
Bigger
on.
and better.
And yeah, thanks.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.